Hi guys and welcome back to Slormancer. I did play a little bit off screen. I played on my own basically through all the endgame. I was able to beat 25 last warlords and final boss, which is Ohm Agad, using this inner fire melee build. I really enjoyed playing this build because it's very easy to play. You just have to click one button, basically chronopuncture, and run around the enemies. It's very similar to playstyle of Righteous Fire from the Path of Exile. So I definitely recommend it if you want to have some chill experience in Slormancer. It's not perfect, even if I was able to beat the whole game, it's still not perfect and has a lot to improve. But I think the idea behind the build is there, and I'm going to show you how to replicate it or what to improve on it. So this is the build I was able to beat the game with. So this is exactly after the time I was able to beat Ohm Agad. I was obviously on the level 100, had 32 average skill damage, 28,000 life, and max mana was only 7,000 because I did not really need it. I did not focus on elemental damage at all. From terms of armor, at Vrat 10 I had 75% damage reduction with nearly 82,000 armor, elemental resistance very high as well, and these are the stats of my character when I scroll through them. As you can see, I focused mostly on life on hit, some life leech, little bit of movement speed, lot of attack speed and cooldown reduction, high raw damage, very high armor, tenacity is at 96 and of course my main damage source was inner fire. As you can see, I also had some inner fire chance, but most of the inner fire chance came from the chronopuncture upgrade and the skill tree and my rune. My inner fire max charges are very high at 83, at least I think so that it's very high. I usually wasn't able to get to the 83, as you might see, but against the boss I had it every time. Inner fire duration is very high as well, and inner fire damage around 190,000. I did not focus on the overdrive, but I'll talk about it later. But I had some points in melee recastions. Okay, now let me show you my gear. Obviously the most important part is my Slormancer, and I use this primordial staff of concentrated inner strength. That's like the mandatory staff you should have for the inner fire build, and mostly because it's increasing damage like crazy, but most importantly that primordial benediction effect, which is increasing maximum charges of inner fire, is very important. It has also an active ability, especially that concentration is really high because it will nearly double your damage, maybe even more high, I don't know, but the damage is very high when you use it for the next 7 seconds. From the gear point of view, as you can see, I was still wearing only some epics, and some of my uniques were on low level of upgrades, level 8, level 4, level 5, level 7. So yeah, there is still a lot of room for improvement for this build, but it was still enough to beat the game. I will hover over each gear piece and you can check the stats. On every piece of my gear, I'm trying to improve Asturias affinity, which is the affinity of my Slormancer, and I try to get some stats. Having some masteries to the scales is not important at all, because there isn't mastery for inner fire, and that's our main source of the damage, and we don't really need to improve the mastery of chronopuncture or book smash, which I am using. I use this Vortex of Asturias, which is providing me with inner fire duration, and it's not only 12 seconds, it's multiplicated also by the bonuses which you have for the inner fire duration. I had the bracers which are improving my skill damage and raw damage based on the when I receive the damage from that tool, it's going to improve the raw damage. It is also possible to take Ka Rouge Quiet Resilience or Vrat of Geralzor as alternative legendary effect. For gloves I wasn't lucky to get legendary effect, but I would recommend less stat infused mittens or Winds of Harmony. My ring is increasing the defensive stats of the both rings, but getting replica of the past is a viable choice as well. The legendary effect on the boots, as you can see, is not great for my class because I had to change it. I used a different legendary effect, specifically this Sorrowsil Pact, but unfortunately it wasn't viable against the last boss, so I had to change it. But getting Sandals of the Speed is viable for a whole game, I think. Another ring has multiplier or legendary effects to life on hit and multiplier of life on hit and life on kill. Interesting is the legendary effects on my amulet, which is Glance. I originally did not want to use it and wanted to reroll it, but as it takes some time to accumulate gold for rerolls, I got used to it and found it very helpful when fighting against any mobs inflicting any conditional damage. With the chest piece, I'm using legendary effect to increase my inner fire max charges. That one is great. And the last one is Belt, which is restoring my HP every 3 seconds based on the missing health, which was again very helpful. It doesn't look to be strong, but it helped me a lot against the conditional effects like burn, so they basically could not kill me when I was on low health or very hard. Let me hover over the rest of the gear. For the helmet, I think there is a huge room for improvement. I would recommend picking Vision of Authority and increasing Overdrive chance, because that would increase your inner fire chance by a lot, and it's much easier to increase overdrive chance than inner fire chance, and also your overdrives would deal very huge damage. I had around 500% increased damage to inner fires, which would be added also to overdrive damage. So that would be my idea, but I just didn't have enough gold to accomplish it at the end of the game. For the cape, this is a very interesting story, because we have two great choices. The first one is a loop to all, which would allow you to be targeted by your own overdrives, and those overdrives would be able to heal you by quite a lot. So this would be viable if you are focusing on the overdrives, as I mentioned earlier. Another solid option is taking Mantle of the Unquenchable Fire, I think that's how it read, which would increase the size of your inner fires and their damage slightly. So this could be viable as well, but you need to take a little bit of critical strike chance as well, which I didn't, as it can get a little tricky. As ultimatum, I use this area damage reduction because it's always better to use an ultimatum which doesn't provide you with your main stats which you want to increase, because you can increase any stats higher through your gear. So I don't really want to have some stat with the ultimatum, because it will cap it on the maximum. So I cannot have higher area damage reduction than 35 right now. So if, for example, I had melee recast chance, I couldn't have it higher than, I think, 35% chance or 25. I don't remember what's the maximum set on the ultimatum, but you get my point. For the Slormancer, I am also using these runes. This rune is giving me buff. With that buff, I have increased inner fire chance, so that's great to generate inner fires. And inner fires are triggering some elemental damage when they are hitting, but that's not that important. I basically have it just for that inner fire chance. Activation rune is this one. After spending set amount of mana, I'm going to activate my rune. And enhancement rune is the one which is reducing the constraint of my effect rune, so I can basically cast it more often. At the end, the effect of inner fireworks lasted 24 seconds, and it took me around 10 seconds to activate it again. Now let's move to stats. I was focusing on determination, and the reason for that is that at the end you are able to unlock more inner fire charges, and it's also giving me a lot of elemental resistances and other resistances, which are very helpful. I don't really need mana regen, so that's not that helpful, but yeah. And at the end you are able to heal from the skills used in the combat, so that's also a great benefit. The rest of the points I basically put into the toughness, and I had these stat bonuses. The main reason why I was focusing on the toughness was tenacity, to have additional 35%. Another great benefit is that as I was stacking armor, that increased my elemental resistance as well, because 25% of my armor was converted to elemental resistances. Great bonus is also blind, or chance to blind on hit, but I'm basically blinding the single target enemy all the time because I have very high attack speed, and 15% all damage reduction is huge, but that's at the very end. The specialization used is Phlegmatic Caster, mostly for its time warp, because that one can be pretty helpful. If you find yourself trapped on one side of the room, you can quickly teleport to the other side. From the main skill, I use Chronopuncture as my primary attack, and this is the spec for it. I'm mostly focusing on attack speed and inner fire regeneration, so let me hover very quickly over it. And melee recast chance, because I have around 50, you can have it higher. It's dealing some damage as well. I also use Book Smash, but I don't really use it. I use it only sometimes against some bosses when I need to silence them, because I have a silence for 2.5 seconds on hit, but otherwise I try to avoid it, because I'm generating inner fires faster with Chronopuncture. From the Phlegmatic Caster Time Warp, I am focusing on regenerating mana with hits, as well as increasing inner fire damage and some bonus attack speed and maximum life multiplier. In the terms of ancestral skills, I am focusing on these skills: raw damage increase, damage to elites, and life regeneration, which I don't really need. Ancestral skill to increase raw damage. Raw damage is increasing your inner fire damage, so that's very helpful. Paladin's Fervor, mostly to increase armor and aura increased effect, but mostly armor. Then Vengeful Hero to increase raw damage, armor pen, armor, and again life regen, which I don't really need. Seasoned Hunter to increase attack speed, armor penetration, and elemental penetration, which I don't need. Then I have a raw boost, increasing raw damage. Ice Aura, which is reducing the attack speed of the enemies who are nearby. And one Ancestral Stone, which doesn't need to be connected, the last one, is slotted into Inner Sanctum to increase inner fire chance, maximum charges, duration, and inner fire damage. Okay guys, so that's basically it. I hope you enjoyed this run. Now enjoy the last fight against Ohm Agad as well. This was my 6th try in total, and the first try after replacing my legendary effect on boots, which basically killed me 5 times before this run. So it was also the first time I was able to get over phase 1, so I was a little bit scared and I didn't know what to do, so please excuse that.